My name is Kelly Brooks, 32 years old, and a single text from my parents broke something in me I didn't know could break. It came late one night, my phone glowing with their words. "We no longer trust you. Don't come to the office tomorrow." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding, fingers trembling as I typed back one word: understood. That word hit a storm of pain, anger, and betrayal I could barely contain. For years, I'd been the backbone of our family's software company in Salt Lake City, pouring my life into keeping it strong. But that night, everything I thought I knew about family loyalty, trust, love crumbled. It wasn't just a message, it was a line drawn in the sand, a declaration that I was no longer one of them. What had I done to deserve this? I'd uncovered something buried deep in the numbers I lived by every day. Something that threatened to unravel the empire we'd built together. My family didn't thank me for it. They turned their backs, choosing secrets over truth. I couldn't shake the weight of their words, but I wasn't ready to give up. Something bigger was coming, a reckoning I didn't see yet. Stick with me to find out what tore my family apart, what truths I uncovered, and why that one word, understood, changed everything. Have you ever faced a moment when family turned against you for doing what's right? Share your story in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to see how this unfolds. Salt Lake City in the 90s was where tech dreams exploded and my family built a small empire. Growing up, I watched my parents pour their hearts into BrooksTech, a software company that started in our garage. They were visionaries, turning lines of code into a business that changed lives. By the time I was in high school, BrooksTech was a name in enterprise resource planning software, pulling in $30 million a year, helping small businesses streamline their operations. It was our legacy, and I was proud to be part of it. I'm Kelly Brooks, and by my late 20s, I was the chief financial officer, keeping our books tight and our growth steady. My older sister, Emma Brooks, ran marketing, her charisma landing us big clients, but masking a hunger for control. My younger sister, Elizabeth Brooks, handled human resources, always trying to keep the peace between us. Mom and Dad, the founders, stepped back from daily operations but still called the shots. They trusted us to carry their dream forward, but that trust came with cracks I didn't see until later. As kids, we were close, summers hiking in the Wasatch Mountains, winters arguing over board games. But as adults, working together changed things. Emma was the golden child, her flashy presentations winning Dad's praise. I focused on numbers, catching errors that saved us millions, but my wins were quieter. Elizabeth, caught in the middle, smoothed over our spats, but I could tell she leaned toward Emma's charm. It stung, but I brushed it off. I loved my family, and BrooksTech was our bond. The first sign of trouble came during a board meeting 2 years ago. I proposed cutting costs on a risky expansion Emma pushed for. She shot me a look sharp, like I'd betrayed her. Dad sided with her, saying her vision was bold. I swallowed my frustration, but it planted a seed of doubt. Emma started sidelining me, taking credit for my financial strategies. Whispers reached me. Clients thought she was the brains behind our profits. I let it slide, thinking loyalty mattered more than pride. Elizabeth noticed the tension, but played it safe. She'd pull me aside, urging me to let Emma shine. "You know how she is, Kelly. Don't rock the boat." I'd nod, but it felt like a warning. Mom and Dad didn't see it. They were too busy basking in Emma's glow. At family dinners, Emma dominated, pitching new campaigns while I crunched numbers in silence. Once I caught her tweaking my budget reports before presenting them as hers. When I called her out privately, she laughed it off, saying, "We're a team, right?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The real shift came when BrooksTech landed a major client, a chain of retail stores needing our ERP software. Emma took the lead, dazzling them with promises of custom features. I warned that the costs would outstrip the contract's value, but she brushed me off. Dad backed her, saying I was too cautious. Elizabeth stayed quiet, her eyes darting between us. That deal pushed our revenue higher, but it also stretched our resources thin. I started noticing oddities in the books, small discrepancies, nothing glaring but enough to make me uneasy. Looking back, those moments were the first cracks in our family's foundation. Emma's ambition wasn't just drive, it was something darker. I didn't want to believe my sister could cross a line, but the numbers didn't lie. Something was off, and I couldn't ignore it forever. My role at BrooksTech gave me access to every transaction, every account. I started digging, not knowing it would lead to a truth that would tear us apart. Everything started on a late night at the office when I found a transaction that didn't add up. As the chief financial officer of BrooksTech, I spent countless evenings poring over spreadsheets ensuring every dollar was accounted for. That night, buried in a quarterly report, I spotted a payment of $50,000 to a company called Pacific Horizon. It wasn't in the budget, not in any plan I'd approved. My stomach twisted. Something was wrong. I pulled up the transaction details expecting a vendor contract or invoice, but there was nothing, just a vague note about consulting services. I called Peter Hayes, our head accountant, the next morning. "Peter, what's this payment to Pacific Horizon?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He paused, then said it was a one-off consulting fee approved by my older sister Emma. "Don't worry, Kelly, it's all above board," he added, his voice too smooth. But there were no contracts, no receipts, no paper trail. My gut screamed that Peter was covering something up. I brought it up with my younger sister Elizabeth over lunch. She was always the peacemaker, quick to diffuse tension. "Kelly, it's probably just a mix-up," she said, picking at her salad. "You know how Mom and Dad hate conflict. Let it go." Her words stung, but I couldn't shake the unease. Emma's name on that transaction wasn't a coincidence. She'd been pushing risky deals lately, and I'd seen her charm clients into contracts that stretched our finances thin. Was this one of her moves? I went back to the books that evening, digging deeper. By midnight, I'd found 3 more payments to Pacific Horizon, each $50,000 spread over 6 months. That was $200,000 unaccounted for. My heart raced as I cross-checked vendor lists. Pacific Horizon didn't exist in our system. No address, no contact, nothing. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Emma's signature was on every approval, her bold handwriting unmistakable. I sat back, the weight of suspicion settling in. My own sister, the one I'd grown up idolizing, was hiding something. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more proof. Over the next week, I worked late combing through financial records. I found 4 more transactions to Pacific Horizon, bringing the total to $1 million in 6 months. Each one was buried in different accounts disguised as consulting fees or software upgrades. Whoever set this up knew how to hide their tracks, but they didn't count on me. Numbers don't lie, and I'd spent years learning their language. I started keeping a secret log documenting every transaction, every date, every discrepancy. I saved screenshots, emails, anything that could prove what I was seeing. It felt like a betrayal to even think Emma was involved, but the evidence was piling up. I tried talking to Elizabeth again, hoping she'd back me up. "You're overreacting," she said, her voice sharp. "Emma wouldn't do anything to hurt the company. You're stressing Mom and Dad out." Her dismissal cut deep, but it also hardened my resolve. I was alone in this. Peter called me the next day, his tone colder than before. "Kelly, stop digging into Pacific Horizon," he said. "It's handled." His words confirmed my fears. Someone was trying to keep this quiet. I didn't trust Peter anymore, and Emma's involvement was looking less like a theory and more like a fact. The loneliness hit hard. My family, the people I'd worked side by side with, felt like strangers. I kept my log hidden, locked in a password-protected file. Whatever was going on, I had to find the truth, even if it meant standing against the ones I loved. For 3 weeks, I worked until midnight, uncovering a truth that made my heart sink. The Pacific Horizon payments were just the tip of something much bigger. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with questions about Emma, my older sister. Her signature on those transactions haunted me. I needed answers, so I dove deeper into BrooksTech's financial records, determined to find the truth no matter how much it hurt. By the second week, I uncovered three more shell companies: Northwest Consulting, Blue Ridge Solutions, and Coastal Ventures. Each had received payments carefully spread across different accounts, totaling $7 million over 2 years. These weren't random errors, they were deliberate, hidden in layers of mislabeled expenses like software licensing or vendor retainers. Emma's name was tied to every transfer, her approvals buried in obscure files. I cross-checked bank statements and found wire transfers to offshore accounts, places I'd never heard of. My hands shook as I pieced it together. This was no accident. I needed an outside perspective, someone I could trust. I reached out to Diane Stone, my old mentor from UT Austin, who'd guided me through my finance degree. Over a secure call, I shared the details, careful not to mention Emma's name at first. Diane listened, then said, "Kelly, this smells like improper financial transactions. You're looking at a pattern. Someone's moving money intentionally." Her words hit like a punch. When I admitted Emma's involvement, Diane's tone grew serious. "Get hard evidence," she warned. "And protect yourself. This could get ugly." I started saving everything to an encrypted drive: bank records, approval forms, even emails where Emma vaguely referenced consulting projects. I worked in secret, using my personal laptop to avoid detection. Every night I felt more like a detective than a sister. The deeper I dug, the heavier the truth became. Emma wasn't just careless. She was orchestrating something that could destroy BrooksTech. Meanwhile, tension at home was suffocating. Elizabeth, my younger sister, sensed something was off, but kept her distance. At a family dinner, I tried to gauge her stance. "Elizabeth, have you noticed anything weird with the company's finances?" I asked casually. She frowned, glancing at Emma across the table. "You're always so paranoid, Kelly," she said, her voice tight. "Maybe you're looking for problems that aren't there." Emma smirked, chiming in. "Yeah, Kelly, not everything's a conspiracy. Some of us are focused on growing the company, not tearing it apart." Her words cut, accusing me of disloyalty without saying it outright. I didn't take the bait, but Emma's jab stung. Later, Elizabeth pulled me aside. "Kelly, stop stirring things up," she pleaded. "You're stressing Mom and Dad out. Emma says you're just jealous of her success." I stared at her, shocked. Emma had gotten to her, spinning a story that painted me as the troublemaker. I tried to explain, but Elizabeth cut me off. "Just drop it, okay? We're a family." Her loyalty to Emma felt like a betrayal, widening the gap between us. The next day, Emma cornered me at the office. "You've been asking a lot of questions," she said, her voice low and sharp. "If you're not on board with our vision, maybe you're not cut out for this company." It wasn't a question, it was a warning. I held her gaze, my heart pounding, but said nothing. I couldn't tip my hand, not yet. That night, I backed up more evidence, my encrypted drive, now a vault of secrets. I felt like I was betraying my family by digging, but Emma's actions were the real betrayal. Mom and Dad were oblivious, praising Emma's latest marketing pitch over dinner. I sat in silence, my mind on the $7 million she'd funneled away. Elizabeth avoided my eyes, siding with Emma's narrative. The family I'd once felt so close to was slipping away, replaced by suspicion and half-truths. I wasn't just fighting for BrooksTech anymore. I was fighting for what was right, even if it meant standing alone. The truth was close, and I wasn't stopping until I had it all. The meeting at my parents' house was when I realized my family was no longer my anchor. I'd spent days preparing a report, every page meticulously detailing the shell companies and Emma's signatures. $7 million funneled through Pacific Horizon, Northwest Consulting, Blue Ridge Solutions, and Coastal Ventures, evidence I couldn't ignore. I walked into that meeting with a folder full of truth, hoping to save BrooksTech. Instead, I walked out with nothing. I started by laying out the facts. I found payments to 4 shell companies totaling $7 million over 2 years, I said, passing copies of my report to Mom, Dad, Emma, and Elizabeth. "These companies don't exist. The money's gone and Emma approved every transfer. My voice was steady but my heart pounded. Emma's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a smirk. "This is ridiculous, Kelly," she snapped. "You're making this up to undermine me. You've always been jealous of my role in the company." Her words were a knife twisting years of rivalry into a lie. Dad John Brooks leaned forward, his face hard. "Kelly, you're accusing your sister of something serious. Do you have proof, or is this just speculation?" I pointed to the documents, bank statements, wire transfer records, Emma's signatures. "It's all here, Dad. I've checked everything." He flipped through the pages, but his expression didn't soften. "Emma's been carrying this company," he said. "She's landed our biggest clients. Why would she do this?" His defense of her felt like a betrayal deeper than I expected. Mom Barbara Brooks stayed silent, her eyes fixed on the table. I'd hoped she'd at least ask questions, but her silence spoke louder than words. Elizabeth, my younger sister, tried to bridge the gap. "Kelly, maybe there's an explanation," she said, her voice wavering. "Emma, can you clarify this?" Emma seized the chance. "There's nothing to clarify," she said, her tone icy. "Kelly's blowing this out of proportion to make herself look important. She's never understood how to run a business." Elizabeth hesitated, then nodded slightly, siding with Emma. My heart sank. My sister, the one I'd counted on, was turning away. I pushed back, my voice rising. "Emma, these transfers have your name on them. $7 million doesn't vanish by accident. Explain it." She leaned forward, her eyes cold. "You're the one who needs to explain, Kelly. Digging through records, spying on me. That's not loyalty, that's sabotage." Her accusation hit hard, framing me as the traitor. Dad cut in. "Kelly, you're causing division. If you can't trust your sister, maybe you're not right for BrooksTech." I froze. "Dad, I'm trying to protect the company." I said, my throat tight. "Someone has to." He shook his head. "You need to think about what you're doing to this family. Reconsider your approach or you're out." Mom finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Kelly, we can't have this chaos." It was clear they'd chosen Emma's side. Elizabeth looked at me, guilt in her eyes, but said nothing. Her failure to stand up for me stung worse than Emma's attacks. The room felt like it was closing in. I gathered my report, my hands trembling. "If you won't listen, I can't stay," I said. Dad's voice was final. "Then you're done at BrooksTech. We'll handle this without you." The words landed like a blow. I looked at Emma, her smirk now a mask of triumph. Elizabeth reached for my arm, but I pulled away. "I'm sorry, Kelly," she mumbled, but it was too late. I walked out the door, slamming behind me. Driving away, I felt like I'd lost my family forever. The people I'd worked for, loved, and trusted had turned their backs, blinded by Emma's lies. My folder of evidence was all I had left, a reminder of the truth they refused to see. I wasn't just fighting for BrooksTech anymore. I was fighting for what I believed in, even if it meant standing alone. That night, the message from my parents lit up my phone, erasing every hope I had left. I was alone in my apartment, still reeling from the confrontation at their house, when the text from Mom Barbara Brooks appeared. "We no longer trust you. Don't come to the office tomorrow." I stared at the words, each one a fresh cut. I typed back one word, "Understood," and set my phone down, my chest tight with grief. This wasn't just about BrooksTech anymore. It was the end of my family as I knew it. The next day, I tried calling Elizabeth, hoping for some shred of support. My call went to voicemail. I texted Emma, asking for a chance to talk. No reply. Even Dad, who'd always been my rock, ignored my messages. My family had cut me off completely, as if I'd never been part of their world. The loneliness was crushing a weight I couldn't shake. I spent hours replaying our last meeting, wondering if I could have said something different. But deep down, I knew the truth: they'd chosen Emma's lies over me. Desperate for guidance, I reached out to Lori Quinn, a former colleague who'd left BrooksTech years ago after clashing with Emma. We met at a quiet coffee shop, and I poured out everything, the shell companies, the $7 million, the confrontation. Lori listened, her face grim. Kelly, you're doing the right thing, she said. But you're up against your own family. You need to protect yourself. Look into whistleblower protections. There are laws to back you up. Her words gave me a spark of clarity. I wasn't just fighting for me, I was fighting for what was right. That night, I dove into research, pulling up IRS guidelines on financial misconduct. I learned about whistleblower protections under the Taxpayer First Act, which could shield me if I reported the shell companies. The more I read, the clearer it became I had to act. Emma's actions weren't just hurting BrooksTech, they were illegal, and I couldn't let them slide. I spent days compiling my evidence into a detailed report, bank records, wire transfers, Emma's signatures, all saved on my encrypted drive. Every document felt like a betrayal, but staying silent would betray my principles more. I contacted the IRS anonymously, following their protocol for whistleblower submissions. I uploaded my report through a secure portal detailing the 4 shell companies and the $7 million funneled offshore. My heart pounded as I hit submit, knowing there was no turning back. I wasn't just exposing Emma, I was risking everything: my career, my family, my place in the world. But I couldn't live with myself if I let this go. The truth mattered more than my pain. The days that followed were a blur of isolation. My phone stayed silent, no calls from Elizabeth, no apologies from Mom or Dad. I avoided checking BrooksTech's social media, knowing Emma was probably spinning her narrative. I felt like a ghost erased from the life I'd built with my family. At night, I'd lie awake, torn between guilt and resolve. Had I done the right thing, or had I destroyed everything? Lori's words echoed in my mind. Hold on to your integrity, Kelly. It's all you've got left. I kept my decision secret, even from Lori. The weight of it was mine alone. I'd grown up believing family was everything, but now I saw the cost of that belief. Emma's ambition had fractured us, and my parents' refusal to see the truth had sealed the break. Yet as much as it hurt, I stood by my choice. Reporting the misconduct wasn't just about justice, it was about proving to myself that I could stand for something bigger than family loyalty. I was alone, but I was right. 3 days later, the whole family came to me in a panic. I was in my apartment, still grappling with the silence after Mom's text, when the doorbell rang. Dad John Brooks stood there, clutching a folder, his face ashen. Mom Barbara Brooks hovered behind him, her hands trembling. Elizabeth, my younger sister, looked like she'd been crying for days. With them was Alan Mitchell, our family's longtime attorney. Their desperation filled the room before anyone spoke a word. Alan took the lead, his voice grim. Kelly, Emma's gone. She transferred $8 million from BrooksTech to an offshore account and fled to a country with no extradition treaty. My heart sank, though part of me wasn't surprised. My older sister had taken her betrayal to a new level. Alan explained that after I was forced out, Emma showed my parents forged documents claiming I'd mismanaged funds. Those lies fueled their distrust, leading to the message that cut me off. Now, with Emma vanished and the company's accounts gutted, the truth was glaring. Dad's voice shook as he spoke. Kelly, we're in trouble. The IRS is auditing us. We could lose the company, our home, everything. Elizabeth's eyes pleaded with me. You know the finances, Kelly. Please help us fix this. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. We need you, Kelly. Their words stirred a storm inside me, anger, not sympathy. They'd believed Emma's fabrications pushed me out, and now they expected me to save them. Alan handed me a file, his expression somber. Emma's final transfer was $8 million to an account in the Caymans through a shell company called Horizon Global. Her forged documents blamed you for financial errors, convincing your parents you were at fault. He shook his head. She manipulated everyone, but you saw through it. The evidence was damning: fake reports with my name crafted to make Emma's transfers look legitimate. It explained why my family turned on me, but it didn't erase the sting. I looked at them, their fear almost tangible. Dad leaned closer. Kelly, talk to the IRS. Tell them it wasn't us. You're our only hope. Elizabeth nodded, tears streaming down her face. We're family, Kelly. Please. Mom reached for my hand, her voice breaking. We were wrong to doubt you. But their apologies felt empty, like bandages on a wound they'd helped inflict. They'd chosen Emma over me, and now they faced the fallout of that choice. I stepped back, my voice cold but steady. You trusted Emma's lies and threw me out. I warned you and you didn't listen. You don't get to ask for my help now. Elizabeth sobbed, clutching Mom's arm. Kelly, we're begging you. Don't let BrooksTech collapse. Dad's face hardened. You'd abandon us after all we've built together. I held his gaze. You abandoned me first. Emma's actions are on you for believing her. Mom's head bowed, silent, unable to argue. I turned away from their pleas and called Patricia Newman, the IRS agent overseeing the case. Over a secure line, I shared new details, dates of Emma's latest transfer emails tying her to Horizon Global, and copies of her forged documents. Patricia's tone was professional but urgent. This is critical, Kelly. It'll accelerate our investigation, though her location makes things tricky. I wasn't focused on catching Emma anymore. I wanted accountability. My evidence would ensure the IRS pressed forward no matter where she hid. As my family left their footsteps heavy with defeat, I felt a mix of resolve and grief. Dad's pleas, Mom's silence, Elizabeth's tears. They were real, but so was their betrayal. They'd built BrooksTech with me, only to let Emma tear it apart. I'd given the IRS everything they needed, and now it was their move. My fight wasn't about saving my family, it was about making them face the consequences of their choices. More, it was about holding them accountable for what they'd done. 6 months later, I stood at the edge of a new beginning, never looking back. The collapse of BrooksTech was complete, its name now synonymous with scandal in Salt Lake City. My parents, John and Barbara Brooks, faced a crushing penalty from the IRS, $10 million for financial misconduct tied to Emma's shell companies. The fine drained their savings, and with major clients abandoning the company, BrooksTech filed for bankruptcy. The empire my family built over decades was gone, reduced to a cautionary tale. Emma, my older sister, was now an international fugitive. The IRS, with my evidence, issued a warrant for her arrest, but she remained untouchable in a country with no extradition treaty. Reports surfaced of her living in isolation, cut off from the life she'd known in America. Her ambition had cost her everything: her family, her reputation, her freedom. I felt no satisfaction, only a hollow ache for the sister I'd once admired, now a stranger lost to her own choices. Elizabeth, my younger sister, tried to reach out. Her texts were tentative, filled with apologies and pleas to meet. Kelly, I was wrong, one message read. Can we talk? You're still my sister. But each word felt like too little, too late. She'd stood by while Emma's lies tore us apart, and her silence during our parents' betrayal stung deeply. I deleted her messages, choosing silence over reconciliation. Cutting ties with my family was painful, but it was the only way to protect myself from further hurt. I'd moved on, building a new life far from the wreckage of BrooksTech. I took a job with a consulting firm specializing in business ethics, advising companies on transparency and accountability. The work felt meaningful, a stark contrast to the secrecy that destroyed my family's company. I rented a small apartment in a new city, surrounded by colleagues who valued my expertise, not my last name. Each day, I rebuilt my confidence, proving I could stand on my own without the weight of family expectations. The IRS investigation, fueled by my reports, closed with undeniable results. Patricia Newman, the agent I'd worked with, confirmed that my evidence, bank records, forged documents, and transfer logs had exposed the full scope of Emma's actions. The $10 million fine was only part of the consequences. My parents faced years of legal battles to untangle their liability. I didn't gloat or dwell on their downfall. My role was done when I chose truth over loyalty, and I carried no regrets for that decision. The hardest part wasn't losing BrooksTech or even my family, it was accepting that loyalty could blind you to betrayal. Growing up, I believed family came first, no matter what. But Emma's greed, my parents' denial, and Elizabeth's hesitation showed me the cost of that belief. I learned that responsibility to yourself and your principles matters more than clinging to a family that doesn't see your worth. Standing up for what's right meant walking away even when it broke my heart. This journey taught me a lesson I'll carry forever. Blind loyalty to family can destroy you, but standing for truth builds a stronger foundation. To anyone listening, I say this: trust your instincts when something feels wrong, even if it's family. Speak up, hold people accountable, and don't let love excuse betrayal. My family's collapse wasn't just their failure, it was a chance for me to redefine what matters. I chose integrity over allegiance, and that choice gave me a life I'm proud to live. You can do the same. Thank you for hearing my story. Please share your thoughts and subscribe to this channel for more stories of resilience.